Hi everybody, this is Carol from Practical Mystic. Thanks for joining me today. This video is going to be on symbols in the tarot. And regardless of where you live, the language that you speak, there is a universal understanding of symbols. And the more familiar we become with these symbols, I believe the quicker and easier it will be to understand and interpret the tarot cards, because tarot cards are all made up of symbols. So today I will be starting a new series on symbols and their meanings, specifically found in the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. And the symbol I'll be discussing today is the crown. Now we know the crown represents expanded awareness, some sort of mastery. It can indicate status, hierarchy, and the material that it's used to make it is also very important. And of course, how it is decorated also gives you a degree of its class importance. So we are going to look at that in the tarot cards today. But before I do that, I thought I would also share with you that in ancient times, wearing a crown was a physical representation of the human aura. And of course, we know that the human aura is throughout the whole body, but I wanted to use this as an example because you can see the aura around her head, and the head is where we place a crown on top of the head, where we have a crown chakra. So the color of the aura was the degree or status of that human person's spiritual accomplishments. So a crown really is connected with a symbol of an inner form of knowledge, as well as an outer representation of class, mastery, power, and importance. That is really a twofold symbol. Wanted you to know that little piece of information. Now we're going to begin with the triple tiara crown, and I'm going to stand up here so that I make sure you can see this on your monitor. Now the triple tiara crown is shown on 3 of the major arcana cards. And again, I'm just placing this, bear with me, here we go, excellent. As you can see, the triple tiara is 3 levels, but it goes further than that. It also indicates the power over the 3 worlds. Okay, what are the 3 worlds? The creative world, the highest, that is depicted by the Empress. Then there is the formative world, that's depicted by card number 5, the Hierophant. And then there is the material world, and that's depicted by card number 16, the Tower. So let's begin by looking at the symbolism of the triple tiara on the Empress. Okay, now remember, she is the creative world. She is the feminine ruling, let's say, Earth Mother. She is either pregnant with child or she is pregnant with imagination. And her crown is made up of 12 stars. Those stars are said to represent the 12 signs of the zodiac and or the 12 months in a year, which basically indicate time. When we are born, our day and time of birth are very important throughout our life. And it gives each of us our own personal horoscope with the 12 zodiac signs within it. So that is what she represents. The stars are also six-pointed, and that is quite important also, because the six-pointed stars are known either as the Seal of Solomon or the Star of David. Now, how is the six-pointed star formed is by two interlacing triangles, and they also have meaning. The upper triangle is known as the masculine positive fire element triangle. The other one, triangle facing downward, is the feminine negative water triangle. Now, that in itself indicates the power of creation for her, the masculine and feminine energies. And then occultist Oswald Rith, he termed this star as the microcosm, or the sign of spiritual potential of an individual who can endlessly deny himself, which gets into self-actualization and conquering the lower self. So this is quite a powerful symbol on the head of the High Priestess. And it is also the Star of David, or the Seal of Solomon, or even the eight-pointed star is also symbolic of the human soul. So lastly, about this, I would like to say that her crown, if you look real close, sits on a wreath of leaves, which indicates growth, vitality, and success. So that is the creative world. Now, we talked about the second world, the formative world, and I said that that was depicted by the Hierophant, and I'm just standing up to make sure you see that in the monitor, and you do. Now, his triple tiara crown is designed with truffles. Now, what is that? Do you see these little, they almost look like clover leaves, but they're three-sided leaf, like a clover, although there's four-pointed clovers, and it represents the lower world, this part right here, and the middle world, and then the higher world, the three worlds. That's the three aspects of the petals. And it forms the crown. Now, going back to how the crown is made, the first layer is 5 trefoils, and of course that has to do with our 5 senses. That is sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Then we go on to the next row of 7 trefoils, which symbolize the 7 chakras, or you could say the 7 planets. Again, going back to the body and the spiritual essence of the human aura by using the 7 chakra centers. And then the last row on top is representing of the 3 states of consciousness: the superconscious, the conscious, and the subconsciousness. And really, it's just another way of saying that each of those layers of the crown is another step closer to the God consciousness. Now, probably many of you were looking at this and saying, tell me what that squiggly line or that W symbolizes. Well, that W is the linking of man to God through the inner voice, okay? And it is really a Hebrew letter that stands for Shin, and it's fire element and also the Holy Ghost. So it is the inner voice of the Hierophant that is the connection to God. Okay, now let's go to the material world. And of course, that's really easy to see with the Tower, card number 16. We know that it is overthrown because of selfish ambition. And this is not a crown where we see divinity. The gold crown here really just depicts personal will and maybe materialism. It bears no jewels. It has jagged points. It has large, hollow openings. It lacks symbols of understanding or knowledge. So basically, it is created with the belief that matter, things, possessions are what existence is all about. It has nothing to do with spirituality, enlightenment, using self-knowledge for the good of others. This is self-power, and it is being brought down. I don't want to get into too many of the symbolism, but basically we understand that this crown lacks anything of divinity. So those were the three worlds from the triple tiaras of the crowns of these major arcana. So now let's move on to some of the other cards showing a crown. And the first one is, the Ace of Swords. Now, I think it's important for me to emphasize that all the four aces in the minor arcana are placed in the middle pillar of the Jewish Kabbalah, or the Tree of Life. And I wanted to show that a little stronger so that you would see it. All the aces come out of this is the Jewish Kabbalah, or the Tree of Life, which is made up of 3 pillars, and all of the aces come out of the Miller pillar, which stands for Kether. And Kether is the crown. But the only ace that shows the crown is the Ace of Swords. Now I'm going to keep this because there's a little bit more information that I'll be sharing with you in a few minutes here. Okay, so specifically the Ace of Swords is shown with a crown kind of piercing, I should say the sword kind of piercing the crown. And there are some rubies on this crown, and rubies are said to be given to those who use their intellectual power. All right. Here's the correlation with the swords. We know that swords has to do with intellect, air, mind, thinking. Now, very simply put, because the Jewish Kabbalah is complicated and it takes years of studying, but I wanted to reference this a little more since we're talking about the crown and what the crown depicts. First of all, I want to tell you that the Rider Waite deck are mirror images. What do I mean by that? I mean that the right side is the left and the left side is the right. So you are seeing a palm branch on the right side, but it really is the left side, and it belongs on the left pillar known as Bina, that is called severity. The olive branch is on the right side, or the right pillar, which is known as mercy. Chakma is the name of it. So they have to also do with opposite poles and how we use the double-edged sword, how we use our mind, and when our thinking dictates our action. And the middle pillar of equilibrium says how it's important to keep that balance. So I don't want to get into anything more deeper, but that is why the Ace of Swords, being one of the 4 swords in the center pillar of Qatar, known as the crown, has these 2 palm and olive branch depicted on both sides equally, as well as the rubies. Okay. Now, we finished that. Now, there are more cards that have crowns, of course. And the next one is the Emperor, card number 4. Now, his golden crowns has 5 sections, 5 circles. 2 of their circles are red, 2 and 3 of them are yellow. And the top, and they lead to, you could see that there are 3, I'm going to call them paths. But we can also remember what I said earlier about the 3 worlds or the 3 states of consciousness. And then we have this emblem, which I will talk about here in a few minutes. Let's first begin with the 5 sections of the crown, and they represent order and control, okay, of the 5 senses, which we learned about in the Hierophant. The 2 red dots are rubies, symbolizing energy and vitality of the Emperor, and that is related to the planet Mars, because Mars is the ruling planet of the astrological sign Aries, which is certainly represented in this card. And of course, we know that Mars has force, Mars has power, and Mars has action. And the yellow are indicating the sun, which has to do with the zodiacs, as well as Aries is the sun rules Aries, the sign of Aries, in the planet Mars, also related to Leo. So there's this indication of the planets, the sun, and that little emblem here is the glove for Aries. And because it was so hard to see, I took out this book, tried to show you a resemblance here. But that is the glove for Aries. Anyone who does astrology knows that that's the symbol for the sign of Aries, and that is on the top of his crown. It is also the first sign of the zodiac, and like I said earlier, it indicates strength, initiation, power, force, the red planet, which we see a lot. Again, I don't want to get into too much of the symbolism today. We're just talking about the crowns, but that's what that little emblem is on top of his crown. All right, the next one that we're going to move to is the Chariot. Now, the first thing we see on his golden crown is this beautiful, large, 8-pointed stars. And I think it's important to know that stars are symbols of divine guidance. And the 8-pointed star signifies not only guidance, but wealth and illumination. Now, we also see the tip of other stars. In fact, there are 4 tips that are sticking out, and they have to do with stability. Also the word order, because 4 is representing of order from the emperor, because he has to have order and he rules by order. Here again, it is corresponding to the 4 tips of the stars here on the chariot. Now the crown also sits on a wreath of leaves, much like the Empress, and again we are showing vitality, success, and specifically here for the chariot we're going to have to say victory. It's like a victory wreath that it sits on. The star canopy, I just want to kind of mirror all of this in. There is a purpose to this design on his canopy and on his crown, which shows the influence of the planets on each human being and the cosmos. Okay? And lastly, the crown on the Justice card, number 11. Now, her crown has 3 turrets. 1, 2, 3. And it is said that each of the turrets stand for something. One of them stands for liberty, the other one stands for equality, and then the other one stands for truth. Now, some tarotists and other books that I have read on symbology and the tarot say that the 3 turrets can also stand for love, one for beauty, and one for harmony. And the blue, beautiful stone in the center of her crown, now it's in the middle above one of the turrets, that indicates neutrality, very much like the middle pillar of the tree of life, as well as centeredness of mind. And the blue color also stands for peace and sincere intent, which of course is symbolic of what the card Justice represents. And I'm going to end it there, and then my next video I will talk about the crowns on all of the court cards. Okay? Thanks for joining me, everyone. I appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. Till then, stay safe. Blessings to all. Bye for now.